What makes home home? Today on Blue Collar Reformation. I'm PBR with our episode 2 on the home. Charles Spurgeon was asked this question in his book, Spurgeon's Practical Wisdom. It's a collection of Spurgeon's subjects on different things of the practical life. It says, Plain Advice for Plain People, and it's written by Charles Spurgeon, and so it's wonderful. But he asked this question in there, what makes home home? You can imagine different scenarios where you think about what we mean by when we say home and how we feel about home, how that always brings up in our minds a sense of belonging and happiness and good memories. And it's not just your house you live in, but your home, your family that lives in the home. And Spurgeon talked about the problem of how stones rolling along, gathering no moss, are absent from the home. And they are absent from that which can be heaven and earth. It can also be a great pain, especially if you do things in your home that are going to destroy it. But it is a heaven on earth for those who spend the time to make the home a holy place and a happy place. But Spurgeon's very helpful on this. I recommend Spurgeon's Practical Wisdom. Many of the subjects we'll be talking about are included in this volume. And he gives very plain advice, very helpful words, very direct, and at times absolutely hilarious in how direct he is, because nobody speaks like these things today. And a couple other books that I want to point out to you. One would be Herman Bavink's book, The Christian Family, where he talks about how the home is really the center of where our religion is practiced, as well as a book on how to lead your home religiously as a little church. Not that you're separate from the church Catholic or from the church that is meeting publicly with groups of other families and singles, but rather the church in the home, how the home is part of the church. And so Matthew Henry's book, Family Religion, is very effective for understanding the covenant and how the church is part of the covenant, or how the family is part of the covenant as a little church. It's a really helpful book, and I highly recommend it. But it gives the examples of basically how some people are spending all their times outside of the home. He gives the example of pubs as a place of indulgence. He talks about people not gathering moss because basically they're like rolling stones, rolling along and losing time with the family. And he talks about how men will be out of the home at work for too much time, or just not focused on their family when they are at home, or spending all their time in pubs, indulging themselves, being selfish with their life and their time, and not thinking about the responsibilities that God's given them in the home. And Spurgeon, in fact, said on page 70, anything that hurts the home is a curse and ought to be hunted down as gamekeepers do the vermin in the copse. Now, the copse is basically an orchard. We have fruit trees, and I've had fruit trees and grapes and different things like that in the past, and you constantly have to keep rats off of them because they want to eat all the fruit, basically. And he says, anything that hurts the home is a curse and ought to be hunted down as gamekeepers do the vermin in the copse. But why do people want to stay away from the home? Why be a rolling stone that gathers no moss? Why not set down roots? Why not spend time in your home? It's a question that a lot of people could answer with basically saying that, there's no love, there's no humility. My wife is not submissive to me. My wife won't listen to me. She's always tongue lashing me. Your children are disobedient. And so basically it leads to you wanting to stay away from the home. It's difficult there. There's more responsibility there. And basically what you see is that outside of the home, people are happier. They have, more freedoms, and they feel like it's more appealing to them to be outside of the home. Christopher Gordon just wrote recently a catechism called the New Reformation Catechism on Human Sexuality. And one of the last questions he asks, he puts in there the terms with regard to different offices in the home, love, humility, and patience, that the home should be filled with love, humility, and patience. But I was thinking about these words biblically, and they actually apply to different offices or places in the home. For example, husbands are the ones who are told to love their wives. Wives are the ones who are told to be subject to their husbands and to basically be humble before them. Children are supposed to be humble for their parents, and fathers are supposed to be patient with their children and not exasperate them. So I was thinking about these things biblically, and basically how what we need to do is understand that what tears down the home is our behavior of abandoning what the Scripture has told us for how we are to live with one another at peace in the home, to make it a holy and happy place. And I think that people want to stay away from the home because they haven't made it a holy and happy place. They've spent too much time outside of it. They haven't tilled their own garden. They haven't drunk from their own well. They haven't basically spent the time to put into the family in order to make it a holy and happy place. And by avoiding it, you're just creating more problems for yourself and for those in your home. And so we'll be talking about husbands in this series. We'll be talking about wives, but from the perspective of the husband, because this channel is directed toward men who are thinking about these things. And then also we'll be talking about children and how fathers are supposed to be leading their children. And as we do so, we'll be looking at the Scriptures on these things. So join me as we continue to work through these subjects and consider what makes home home, and then also why do people want to stay away from the home? What sort of things keep them away from the home? This is PBR signing off.